Hello there guys, what is going on? Sutton Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're all doing well and keeping safe on this Sunday. Going to be talking in today's episode about a lot of transfer speculation. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Bayern Munich's rejected bid last night, the potential of a second bid before that deadline. Will we stay? Will we go? My thoughts on that situation. Also, Chelsea's pursuit of a defensive midfielder. But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, hit a like button if you're enjoying the content because it helps out the channel as well. So let's start off with Callum Hudson-Odoi. The breaking news last night from pretty much everywhere regarding Callum Hudson-Odoi was this rejected bid that Bayern made to Chelsea, a big bid of 70 million, which was a loan bid with an option to buy, as you can see here from Jacob Steinberg in The Guardian. Bayern's offer was for Hudson-Odoi to join them on loan for the rest of the season and contains an option to buy for 70 million next summer. Chelsea's decision to reject the bid leaves the European champions with a short time frame to decide whether to try again before the transfer window shuts on Monday. It is believed Chelsea could agree to the move if Bayern return with a loan bid that contains an obligation to make the deal permanent next summer. Then also here this morning from Simon Johnson in The Athletic, Bayern planning second bid, but Chelsea want Callum Hudson-Odoi to stay. Bayern Munich are planning to make a second sizable offer to Chelsea for Callum Hudson-Odoi before the deadline closes on Monday night, but the West London club are expected to reject it no matter what. And then Frank Lampard, speaking to TalkSport last night following our win against Crystal Palace, said this: "I didn't start him with a political view on it. I don't know about those rumours to Bayern. I'll shut them down right now. No, he's not going." So firstly, for Frank Lampard to be that adamant in his post-match comments, saying that Hudson-Odoi is going to stay, I think that's a positive thing, because I think for Lampard, who's usually very coy on transfer rumours, he doesn't commit to a lot of things, even when we're heavily linked to a player. Maybe was the one time he actually admitted to it, and that was because Ren had already confirmed that he would be moving to Chelsea. So Frank, as I say, is very guarded with these transfer rumours. So for him to come out and say he's staying, I think is a big statement by Lampard, and it seems to be from people connected to Chelsea, very close to Chelsea in terms of Hudson-Odoi, who seems very happy at Chelsea apparently. Chelsea are not going to let him go this summer, which is good before the deadline. Of course, things can change very quickly. They come with another big bid and it's the right terms for Chelsea. Hudson-Odoi maybe then wants to leave. The situation can change. We've seen this madness on deadline day before, but I think it's good that the club are holding firm. And the difference between this situation with Bayern coming in for Hudson-Odoi and the last situation in January 2019 is Hudson-Odoi's got a 5-year contract. He signed it last year, so just under 4 years obviously now for that contract. So, that's a big positive in Chelsea's negotiating position with Hudson-Odoi and him potentially going anywhere. So I think that's a positive. I've said this before, that objectively, because there's a lot of different sort of ways you can look at this situation, right, in terms of Hudson-Odoi and going to Bayern Munich. Firstly, objectively, I think it's a bad move letting a winger go this season, because you actually look at the squad and we do have a lot of depth, absolutely. We do have a lot of versatility in our attacking options. So you can see Kai Havertz play out wide. You can see Timo Werner, as we've seen already this season, play out wide. Mason Mount sometimes can be fielded in that area too. But actually natural born and bred wingers in the squad, we have Christian Pulisic, Hakim Ziyech, and also Callum Hudson-Odoi. I mean, you'd want 4 wingers, and there were talks months back about maybe Said Benrahma potentially coming in, but that doesn't seem to be the case now. And letting him go, I just think would be a bad move if you're just looking at the squad on its own merits, to be honest, because I think we do need that depth in natural wingers, natural width in the team, because it's such a benefit to Chelsea, especially in games like yesterday where we lacked it at times. Hudson-Odoi can give you that. Then I think on the next side, you've got looking at Bayern Munich and Hudson-Odoi going there. I don't see what's so drastically different for Hudson-Odoi moving to Bayern to the problems and issues he might face at Chelsea currently in terms of getting ahead of other attackers. Because I look at them, European champions, were incredible last season, especially in attack, such a frightening attack. Chelsea know that more than anyone else, of course, being battered by them in the Champions League last season. And I look at Leroy Sané coming in for a big fee this summer. Is he getting ahead of him? Serge Gnabry, who is one of my favourite players to watch in the world at the moment. I mean, he is an incredible talent. Once again, is Hudson-Odoi getting in front of Gnabry? And I just wonder, him going to a foreign league for a big fee, a lot of expectation. You think the pressure at Chelsea is intense. I mean, Bayern Munich, I think, is to another level, to be honest. And I don't see the drastic difference. I don't see a position opening up there for Hudson-Odoi. I think it's a bit disrespectful for Bayern to be so open about their sort of business and interest in Callum Hudson-Odoi when he's still a Chelsea player, but that's the way they operate. I don't know if there's still a bit of bitterness from Bayern in terms of us, of course, beating them in the Champions League final in 2012 and trying to get one over on us. So there's that situation as well. I think objectively for, Callum Hudson-Odoi's career, I just don't see him going there and having much more success at Bayern in terms of getting into the first team. I may be proven wrong there. I know they were speaking yesterday about him playing at number 10, but still, I think it's difficult for him moving to a club like that and instantly going into the first team. I don't think there's a guarantee there. Also, I think the third point on this is Chelsea having another KDB situation, De Bruyne situation, which still seems to be that whole saga, that deal, him leaving so soon. It's a shadow that looms large over Stamford Bridge still. I think not only for fans, but apparently within the board, within the way they look at transfers. I spoke about this with Andreas Christensen, potentially leaving the club fearing, this is from the words of Matt Lord, fearing another situation like that, him going to, say, the Bundesliga, going for a cheap fee, and then being bought by Barcelona and then turning into an amazing defender later on in his career. So I understand that as well. And if you're someone that gets annoyed by the KDB situation, which Lampard referenced last year, he was very adamant in a press conference last year where he spoke about De Bruyne and spoke about why implementation of young players in his first team is so important, because giving opportunities to youngsters, not giving them any time before, and the danger of letting them go too soon without the opportunity to break into the first team at Stamford Bridge, and then they turn out to be an amazing talent. You've also got to factor that in, right? And I'm sure that's heavily in the minds, not only of Chelsea fans at the moment with that situation. I know it's a massive fee, but you've got to think of the long term here, how young Callum Hudson-Odoi still is at the club. And what he could turn into with the potential he clearly has in his career, really. So I think that will be a concern for Chelsea if they were to let him go. So I think all those factors to me lead me in the direction that I think Callum Hudson-Odoi won't be leaving. Of course, as we've seen before, things can change very quickly on transfer deadline day, and I cannot sit here and 100% say to you, he ain't leaving. But in my opinions, based on what I've read, based on what I've heard, I think Callum Hudson-Odoi is happy at Chelsea. I think he wants to stay at Chelsea. I think that Chelsea are very adamant. Why Frank Lampard coming out being that adamant, for me, I think sums it up that Chelsea are so desperate to keep Hudson-Odoi. They're adamant. They aren't going to let him go this summer for anything, any money. I think it shows you how highly he's regarded. The fact that Chelsea put down that amount of work and that amount of money to keep Hudson-Odoi last time, I think shows you how highly they rate him and how highly they think of him in terms of moving forward in a long-term future at Stamford Bridge. I know that this issue in terms of him moving forward, is this just hitting the pause button? If he doesn't leave tomorrow night and he's still a Chelsea player after the deadline, are we just hitting the pause button to January or next summer? That is the question I want to pose to you guys, because Bayern are a ruthless club. I don't expect them to just accept defeat. If Hudson-Odoi breaks into the first team and isn't on the periphery of the first team and is actually a regular and has, say, a Christian Pulisic run of form and breaks in under Lampard and then asserts himself as the first team sort of right winger or left winger, wherever he finds himself in the team, I think that would die down Bayern's interest in him, because I think Hudson-Odoi would then feel very settled at Stamford Bridge. Yeah, I'm a regular here. I've got a future here. Frank Lampard clearly likes me. But that's on Hudson-Odoi. I've seen a lot of criticism of Lampard in terms of his treatment of Hudson-Odoi, but he's played regularly. If Hudson-Odoi takes his chances, Lampard has proved before he will get into his first team. So a lot can still happen. I mean, what I'm saying right now may be irrelevant in 24 hours time. So we'll have to wait and see. Please let me know your opinions on this situation in the comments below. And also I wanted to touch on the defensive midfielder, because we've spoken a lot about Declan Rice. This came out pre-Crystal Palace from Matt Law in the Telegraph. Frank Lampard hopes to add a defensive midfielder to his squad if Chelsea can sell fringe players. Declan Rice has been Lampard's top defensive midfield target, but West Ham United insist they will not sell their star player, which may force Chelsea to seek an alternative. The alternative seems to be Thomas Partey from Atletico Madrid. Blue Scouts have watched Atletico Madrid over recent months, and Partey's contract includes a 45 million release clause that has so far proved too expensive for Arsenal. I feel with this, Partey I think would be a brilliant option, I think, for what Lampard wants to do. It's very easy to look at yesterday's game, and I was very impressed by the balance in Chelsea's midfield, but it's one game, and I think, you don't want to overreact here and say, we weren't beating Barcelona yesterday, or, even in the moment, Barcelona aren't doing that well, but it wasn't one of those top victories. It was a very good victory, very impressive victory from Chelsea, a much needed victory, But you can't just look at 90 minutes and go, oh, Kante and Jorginho, that's the midfield now, and dismiss all the issues we've had recently in that area. So Chelsea, I still think, will be investing in this area soon. I think with Partey, apparently Chelsea Blue Scouts, obviously, as Matt Law references, have been there, have been watching him. He's a top midfielder in the world, top player in that position in the world, and I think could add that mobility and balance that Chelsea need, and Frank Lampard wants to rectify. I just wonder, waiting for Declan Rice. I've spoken about this before. I do think there may be a sense from Chelsea. It depends also on Jorginho, which I'll get to in a second, but I think that Chelsea may think to themselves, let's wait for our first choice option here, because I still feel Rice is an inevitability coming to Chelsea eventually, whether it's in January, whether it's next summer. I do think Declan Rice will eventually become a Chelsea player. If Chelsea fork out like 45 million for Thomas Partey before the deadline, are we then going to go in for Declan Rice? Because you'd expect Partey to make that position his own, potentially in the first team, and then we've sorted that situation. So there may be a sense within the club, if they're desperate to sign Declan Rice, why don't we just wait for him in the long term rather than the short term? But it is an area of concern for Chelsea, absolutely. It's a massive concern, even with the performance yesterday. And of course, for me, this very much factors in, you see this a lot with transfers, a merry-go-round of transfers basically, because Jorginho, the future of Jorginho up in the air, even though he played and scored 2 goals yesterday, has played a lot at the start of the season, to a lot of people's surprise. Julian Laurent's ESPN journalist here, Arsenal will not sign Hudson-Odoi, but they will try to get Jorginho though. Jorginho links to Arsenal have been prevalent for over a week now. I think the case with Jorginho though, I wouldn't like to see him go to Arsenal, and I do think he'd only be let go if there was a replacement. It's interesting with Jorginho to me because he has played a lot so far this season. He was brilliant yesterday against Crystal Palace, and I think proved once again, if you can find the right balance in that midfield, he's a top player. He really is. But you have to find the best system for him. I think it's very difficult to me still in the long term based on what we've been reading for a number of months now. This tracks back to Project Restart, him barely playing before Kante got injured, and featuring and Lampard seeming to tell Jorginho he's not in his plans anymore. All the links to Juventus, back to Italy, now to Arsenal. Will Arsenal go for a panic move trying to get Jorginho? I just think, once again, it's a merry-go-round of transfers. I think if Chelsea were to be very intent and go, no, we need Partey right now, we need a defensive midfielder, Frank Lampard wants that, then you let Jorginho go on loan. Please let me know your opinions on this situation. Do you think Chelsea will go in for Thomas Partey before the deadline? Do you think he'd be a good addition to Chelsea's midfield? Also, Jorginho, do you think he'll be heading off to Arsenal? And what do you make of that whole situation? Please let me know in the comments below. But that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonofChelsea, and I'll see you again.